we start the welterweights. Paddy Duffy, bit of history first. Paddy Duffy was the first Irish American from Boston who was to cross over champion, or was a crossover from the champion of the welterweight division. He won the 142 pounds, which is nearer the light welter today. That's 140, but again, I've got to digress there. And he won the 142 pound championship, as the limit was then. It was under London prize ring rules, and then he knocked out Billy McMillan under the Queensberry rules. So it's more like the bare knuckle type stuff, really. Before, and yeah, Broughton rules was first, but again, London prize ring rules, that one, and then yeah, so he turns over to London prize ring rules, from London prize ring rules to Queensberry rules, and beats Billy McMillan under the Queensberry rules in the first glove championship. The gloves were sort of skin tight, like what they call kid gloves, really. His disqualification win over Australian-based Englishman Tom Meadows is generally accepted as the inaugural international match of the gloved era of the welterweight class. Duffy had helped popularise the prize ring. Sadly, it was his last fight. He died of tuberculosis, like a lot of them did back then. 1880s, this is. And the division was more pretty prone. So it was set off sort of like having these periodical scrambles for recognition, to which the division was particularly prone. It was the first sort of 30 years, in the first 30 years, his successors were colourful characters like Barbados, the Dean, Walcott, which, you know, I still rate one of the best, Mysterious Billy Smith, etc. Yeah, and yeah, that's basically the basic starting off point. The sort of limit of the division fluctuated between 142 and 145 pounds. I think it's 147 today, I'm sure. For the first 2 decades, and then last century, it was the present poundage. And it was universally accepted in 1920, during which Jack Britton, great old fighter, in his second spell as champion. So, I digress there, just a little bit of history. So, we start off with the first official match we were just talking about. October the 30th, 1988, Paddy Duffy from the US wins in the 7th round against Billy McMillan from the US in Fort Foot. And then March the 29th, 1989, Paddy Duffy wins by disqualification, this time against Tom Meadows again, in disqualification in the 45th round. Tom Meadows from England in San Francisco. This is the bit we're talking about. So July 19th, 1990, Paddy Duffy died from tuberculosis, and the title was claimed by Tommy Ryan and Mysterious Billy Smith, 2 great fighters. August the 9th, 1891, Tommy Ryan wins in the 3rd round against Billy McMillan by KO. And that was in Richardson, Canada. December 13th, 1891, Tommy Ryan wins in the 14th round against Frank Housen from England by KO in the 14th round against Frank Housen, and that was in Chicago, Illinois. Then December the 14th, 1892, Mysterious Billy Smith wins by KO in the 14th round against Danny Needham from the US in San Francisco, California. And then April the 17th, 1893, Mysterious Billy Smith wins by KO in the 2nd round against Tom Williams from Australia. That was in Brooklyn, New York. Then July the 26th, 1894, Tommy Ryan wins on points over 20 rounds against mysterious Billy Smith. That's Minneapolis. Then we got July 26th, 1894. July 26, 1894, Tommy Ryan wins on points over 20 rounds against mysterious Billy Smith. In Minneapolis. And again, just before that, it was April the 17th, 1893. Mysterious Billy Smith wins by KO against Tom Williams from Australia in Brooklyn, New York. Just gone for that. Now Tommy Ryan beats Mysterious Billy Smith over 20 rounds. Then we've got January the 18th, 1895, Tommy Ryan fights the non-apparel Jack Dempsey, not to be confused with the heavyweight version. Again, the non-apparel, this is where he got his name from. Jack Dempsey, the non-apparel, coming out the bare knuckle area. Tommy Ryan wins in the third round. Referee stops to fight. The third round is against Jack Dempsey, the non-apparel from Ireland in New York. May the 27th, 1895. 1895. May the 27th, 1895. Tommy Ryan has a no contest over 18 rounds with mysterious Billy Smith from New York. And then Ryan was subsequently unable to make the championship weight then, which is 142 pounds. So he continued to style himself as a champion till 1898. Then we got May the 17th, 1897, George Green from the US wins by KO 12th round against mysterious Billy Smith in Carson's, Nevada. Then August the 26th, 1897, Joe Walcott, not to be confused with the heavyweight version again, later on in Joe Louis's time, etc. This is Barbados Walcott. August the 26th, 1897, Joe Walcott from Barbados wins in the 18th round by KO against George Green in San Francisco, California. Joe Walcott dropped back down to the lightweight division. And he was a guy who would fight people a lot heavier than him. Even banged out Joe Choisky, who knocked out Jack Johnson early in his career. So that's quite something. August the 27th, 1898, mysterious Billy Smith wins on points over 25 rounds against Matty Wells from the US. And that was in New York. And with this victory, Smith, who had outpointed Green in an overweight contest, a month earlier, was generally accepted as the champion. So we got October the 7th, 1898. Mysterious Billy Smith wins on points over 25 rounds over Charlie McKeever from the US in New York. Now, December the 6th, 1898, mysterious Billy Smith wins on points over Joe Walcott in New York over 20 rounds. Although the match was made at 145, Smith's victory helped consolidate his claim to the title. So March the 10th, 1899, mysterious Billy Smith wins in the 14th round. Referee stops the fight against George Levine from the US in San Francisco. April the 17th, 1900, Matty Matthews wins by KO in the 19th round against Mysterious Billy Smith in New York. Then June the 5th, 1900, Eddie Connolly from Canada wins on points over 25 rounds against Matty Matthews. Then August the 13th, 1900, Jim Rube Ferns from the US wins in the 15th round by retirement against Eddie Connolly from Buffalo. October the 16th, 1900, Matty Matthews wins on points over 15 rounds against Jim Rube Ferns in Detroit. April the 20th, 1901, Matty Matthews wins on points over 20 rounds against Tom Kuhig in the US in Louisville, Kentucky. May the 24th, 1901, Jim Rube Ferns wins by KO of 10 rounds against Matty Matthews. Want to say Matty Wells. Matty Matthews in Toronto, Canada. September the 23rd, 1901, Jim Rube Ferns wins in the 9th round by KO against Frankie Earn in the US in Fort Erie in Canada. December the 18th, 1901, Joe Walcott wins in the 5th round. Referee stops the fight against Jim Rube Ferns in Fort Erie, Canada. September the 5th, 1904, Joe Walcott, Barbados Walcott, draws with Sam Langford, a young Sam Langford there, very young, in his first year or so, I think, as a pro. Draws with Sam Langford from the US, and that was in Manchester. And again, also Sam Langford would fight Joe Gans for the lightweight title, and because he was a pound or two over, he beat Gans when his young man around this time. He didn't get the title, but again, I digress. So we've got, talking of Joe Gans coming up, we've got that. So September the 30th, 1904, Joe Walcott draws with Joe Gans from the US in San Francisco. July the 10th, 1906, Barbados Walcott, Joe Walcott, wins by KO in the 8th round against Jack Doherty from the US in Chelsea, Massachusetts. Then we got September the 29th, 1909, Joe Walcott, Barbados Walcott, draws again with Billy Rhodes over 20 rounds in the US in Kansas City. November the 29th, 1906, Honey Melody from the US wins in the 12th round. Referee stops the fight over Barbados Walcott in 12th round. Referee stopping the fight. That's in Chelsea, Massachusetts again. And then we've got April the 23rd, 1907, Mike Twin Sullivan wins on points over 20 rounds against Honey Melody. And again, there were the twins there. They used to sort of swap. You wouldn't know which one you're fighting sometimes. So the story goes, Jack, the twin son, Twin Sullivan, and Mike. This was Mike. And the title was in dispute during this period with Sullivan, Frank Mantell and Harry Lewis all calling themselves champion with varying degrees of authenticity. Sullivan relinquished his claim in April 1908 because of weight problems. And Lewis, who had beaten Melody and Mantell, became accepted as a champion at the division's new limit of £147. So in 1907, that's when it comes to its limit that it is today. 1907, £147. February the 19th, 1910, Harry Lewis draws over 25 rounds with Willie Lewis from the US, both from the US, in Paris, France. A lot of draws there. I think there was different rules going on. If things went to distance, etc., they'd end up a draw. April the 23rd, 1910, Harry Lewis draws again with Willie Lewis over 25 rounds, both in Paris, France, but different dates. Then we got May the 4th, 1910, Harry Lewis wins by KO against Peter Brown from England in Paris, France. June the 27th, 1910, Harry Lewis wins in the 7th round by retirement against Harry Young Joseph from England. That was in London, England. Then we've got November the 9th, 1911, Dixie Kid wins by KO against Johnny Summers from England in Liverpool, England. Then we've got April the 24th, 1912, Dixie Kid fights George Bernard from France and wins the 11th round by retirement in Paris, France. Then we've got October the 4th, 1912. Marcel Thomas from France wins on points over 15 rounds against Dixie Kid in Paris, France. That's for the IBU version, International Boxing Union. And then July 22nd, 1913. Mike Glover from the US wins in the 4th round. Referee stops the fight against Marcel Thomas in Boston, Massachusetts. Glover was widely accepted in America and Europe as the champion, but a separate version of the title was contested in Australia. The Australian version here, so again, only 3. January the 1st, 1914. Valdemar Holberg from Denmark wins on points over 20 rounds against Ray Bronson from the US in Melbourne, Australia. Then January 24th, 1914, Tommy McCormick from England wins in the 6th round by disqualification against Waldemar Holberg from Denmark. That was in Melbourne, Australia. And here we go. So the one I was getting muddled up earlier. May 21st, 1914, Matt Wells from England wins on points over 20 rounds against Tom McCormick. That was in Sydney, Australia. Then we've got the world title again. So we've got June the 1st, 1915. Mike Glover wins on points over 12 rounds against Matt Wells in Boston, Massachusetts. Glover lost his claim to the title, and he was outpointed over 12 rounds by Jack Britton in Boston on June 26th, 1915 that was. Although the fight was not billed as for the championship and no weights were announced, the title was variously claimed by Jack Britton and Tekid Lewis and Eddie Moher from the US, with Britton finally gaining acceptance by beating Lewis. They fought many, many times, these guys. We might have another few here. Yeah, so April the 24th, 1916, Jack Britton wins on points over 20 rounds against Ted Lewis of England. In New Orleans, Ted Lewis starting out as a bantamweight, fighting, well, basically light heavy in the end. But October the 17th, 1916, they fight again. Jack Britton wins on points over 12 rounds against Ted Lewis in Boston, Massachusetts. Then November the 21st, 1916, Jack Britton wins on points over 12 rounds against Charlie White from the US in Boston, Massachusetts. Then June the 25th, 1917, Ted Lewis wins on points over 20 rounds against Jack Britton in Dayton. And then May the 17th, 1918, Ted Lewis wins on points over 20 rounds against Johnny Tillman from the US, Denver, Colorado. That was in Denver, Colorado. They fought again. They fought a lot of times. March 17th, 1919, Jack Britton wins by KO in the 9th round against Ted Lewis in Kanto, Ohio. And then August 23rd, 1920, Jack Britton draws with Lou Bogash from the US in Bridport in USA. And then we got Jack Britton again, February 7th, 1921. Jack Britton wins on points over 15 rounds against Ted Lewis in New York. And then we got February the 17th, 1922, Jack Britton draws with Dave Shade from the US in New York. And then we've got June the 26th, 1922, Jack Britton wins by disqualification in the 13th round against Benny Leonard from the US, the lightweight, one of the greatest lightweights ever, in New York. Then October the 10th, 1922, Jack Britton wins on points over 12 rounds against Jimmy Kelly from the US in Havana, Cuba. Yeah, and that little sequence with Jack Britton and Ted Lewis was one of the first times a gum shield was won in one of them fights. Yeah, so November the 1st, 1922, Mickey Walker wins on points over 15 rounds against Jack Britton in New York. The New York Commission stripped Walker for his failure to defend against Dave Shade, whom they proclaimed the champion. So that's where I'll leave it. That's the first one of the welterweights. Bang.